Randy, we've got a problem.
What?
They go.
Reality's here. He's trying to crash the party. Reality? Who let him in?
You're sad that people are mean? Well, I'm sorry. The world isn't one big liberal arts college campus.
I don't have an agenda. Like, I want people to do something. I need them to do something. I want them to avoid irrationality.
I guess what interests me is just like what interests everybody else. It's just sort of what feels real.
That was totally wicked!
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing this morning? I welcome you in particular back to this program here. We call this program Real News. It's where we make real friends. It's where we grow in real life together so that when reality does come back, we're here sitting ready, waiting for it, man. We're anticipating reality coming back. Now, which reality that is, I don't know. That's a fundamental question. That's the topic du jour for today. My name is Mr. Henry, David Sean Thompson, Zig with us as well. We're going to do the roundtable discussion here in just a minute. A multitude of topics to talk about this morning. We switched this up a little bit based upon the suggestion from our boy Zig. I think you hit it right on the head here. We're going more with a theme-based topic as opposed to, title as opposed to just particular topics. And I think this one, nails it perfectly. Lists or unity, heal or gloat. Which one are you choosing for today? Before we get to the real news, fake news, as I type this in, our buddy David Sean Thompson is back with us, man. Sean, we had all the real news folks praying for you, man. We missed you along the way. Sean's been dealing with, just call them family issues. I don't know if they need to know much more about it. Sean will let you know. But, buddy, how you doing, man? Everything good on your end?
It's good, man. I got coffee. We had an intro. Everything's going well,
So those are the two main things in life right there.
Yeah.
Coffee and intro,
Those are like my two main duties before we get started talking to each other. So I feel like I'm batting 1,000 right now. So.
Well, man, we honestly did miss you, dude. And I know everybody was worried about everything going on and whatnot, but we're happy to have you back, man, for real.
Well, thanks, everybody. And I'm sorry I wasn't here last week. But the reason I was gone, it's not as dire as it was, so that's good. But just keep my grandfather in your prayers and all those things. So, but let's do it. I'm excited. Season 2. Woo!
Season 2 is what I'm talking about, man. So we stopped the first season on November 2nd. November 3rd was the mark of the second season there. Zig, buddy, out in Pennsylvania way. How you doing this morning? Everything good up where you are?
Yeah, doing pretty well, man. I am going to definitely make sure to gloat. All the people that I needed to win won, so that's gloat worthy. We knocked thousands of doors here in Pennsylvania. Got a lot of people involved, built a lot of enthusiasm. So I am going to gloat.
Hey, look, let's get into real news, fake news real quick, because what Zig just said is kind of a perfect segue into where I want to start the program. I'll get to that in just a second. Obviously, real news, fake news, if you're watching on Facebook, I got to figure out a way to transition this so the Twitch folks and the YouTube folks can play along here. It's a little bit exclusionary when I play this game with just one audience, right? But it is what it is. Here's the real news, fake news at the bottom of your toolbar there. You'll see click real news, fake news. Is the following headline a real headline or a fake headline? Text only today. Biden wins presidency, ending 4 tumultuous years under Trump. Again, real news or fake news headline. Biden wins presidency, ending 4 tumultuous years under Trump. Vote at the bottom there on Facebook. And look, this is the transition into what Zig just came out of. And it's actually interesting play off of the real news, fake news today. Now, whether this is a real news, fake news headline or not, the point kind of remains, like we're just talking about the presidency, aren't we? And we're not even really sure necessarily yet if Biden has won the presidency. We all remember what happened in 2000. Or if you don't, stick with us for another 30 minutes. We'll get to that. We'll remind you what happened in 2000. But to Zig's point here, I was just listening to this guy right before I came on air, doing the prep for the show here. I usually, we usually do about an hour and a half the night before and about an hour and a half the morning of. We try and put some time into this thing, right? And I was listening to this guy, and he was just going through all these reasons as to why it's not a blue wave. And I was thinking, well, okay, yeah. I mean, I get that. Culturally speaking, maybe does that matter? But he was going through this list of starting off at as local as possible, saying, Every single state legislature, I think but one, remained the exact same way that it was. That's the least change we've had in state legislatures since 1946. Every single state legislature, I believe except one, remained the exact same way that it was. Least change we've had in state legislature makeup since 1946. All but one governor remained the exact same, and that one governor was a Republican flip. Was that Montana, Missouri? Someone tell me that. The House is looking like they're going to vote out Nancy Pelosi, because if you didn't follow this story, it was an absolute just words I cannot say type show on this broadcast right now, after they realized that it looked like Republicans were picking up houses. Now, the original projections from Nate Silver and all the like were supposed to be that Republicans were lose House seats. Democrats were getting ready for an entire sweep. And importantly, this might be the first time in 31 years that a president, if it is Biden, will enter into Congress without controlling all of Congress. So the idea, again, is the Democrats were not just supposed to have a blue wave, an entire sweep. They were supposed to pick up houses pick up seats in the House. They clearly did not. I think Republicans are, last time I checked, somewhere between +6 and +10. I can't keep track with it anymore.
They're already over +10. I mean, it's
Is
like
it over +10?
It's like +14, and I think Republicans flipped 2 state legislatures, Grant.
Well, see, and this is where I can't keep up with it anymore, because it's like, so in Michigan we had a House seat that flipped because of some software glitch. I can't keep up with where the things are going anymore. And lastly, to finalize this whole thing out, clearly we all know what's going on with the Senate. We have much more with that coming up right now. I believe it's tied at 48-48 right now. Most of this seems like it's going to come down to Georgia. They still haven't called Tillis, although Tillis is up by 2.3 percentage points or something to that effect. So coming down to Georgia. The point I'm making is going off of what Zig introduced us with, saying like, hey, my people won in Pennsylvania. If there's any silver lining to this, or at least just keep in the back of your mind, for the sake of perspective alone, okay? If you can't advocate for liberty, the next best thing is probably stalemate. The next best thing is gridlock. And I might even advocate the best thing is gridlock if you're not going to just destroy government entirely. Zig, that you were going to talk there a second ago. What were you going to say?
Well, yeah. Well, going back to the conversation that we started some time ago, folks should be enthused that the polls were so wrong, because that means now you have a greater capability and capacity to make change. I'm happy that all these polls were so messed up, because now I can tell people, hey, none of these polls matters. What matters is you being on the ground doing your job to make sure that people you care about win.
Hey, and Shine here. This is totally off topic, but I'm hitting this Facebook for the first time. Like, dude, it looks so much better than it looks so much better. So much better this morning. If you watched the show the last 2 or 3 mornings in a row, it was just me running back here with Zig, and the Zoom thing was in the panel. It's the comments are scrolling here, the graphics across the top. Anyways, buddy, I just want to give Sean a shout out. It looks so good here, man.
You know, Grant, it would just take a little practice, and you could do it too.
That's a good point.
But I'm happy to be here, and it does look great. And it's on I shared it on Parler. It's on Facebook. It's on all the places, you know. But yeah, I'm glad it looks good, man.
And you mentioned it's on Parler. Okay, so this is another interesting topic that needs to be brought up. So in the last 4 or 5 months, there have been two occasions where you can actually see the uptrend in people moving over to Parler. One of them was last night. Now why last night was the one that moved people over to Parler, as opposed to the stories coming out 2 to 3 weeks ago about the very clear and obvious, censorship going on by Twitter and Facebook. I don't know why it wasn't then, or maybe it was.
People
it just wasn't
saying
publicized
Mark
much.
Levin said on his show Saturday night or Sunday night that he wanted people to follow him from now on Parler.
I see.
But that's like correlated. No one knows if that's. There were some people over the weekend who said, you know what, I'm moving to Parler. That's where I'm going to start putting all my stuff. At least that's what Dan Bongino said.
Well, look, man, I actually want to use someone from the audience to transition to our next topic here, because Michaela, she's sitting there, she's watching us, and I'm calling her out here. So sorry, Michaela, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but she made this post public, so I feel comfortable talking about it. I want to give a massive shout out to this girl. So she came out and showed support in a sense of solidarity of supporting Kamala Harris for female accomplishment. All right. And the amount of reaction she got, I'm not going to say she was exactly excoriated, but I think the idea that she was trying to put across on her Facebook was this general idea of like, look, if we really are going to unify, if we really are going to get behind basic notions of what feminism is, of a female accomplishment or something to that extent, maybe we should be consistent about it across the board. I even remember seeing one reply in this little Facebook thread that she had going back and forth where someone responded, I don't want to call this person out, but someone responded to her by saying, are you sure this is Michaela? Michaela is a traditionally conservative individual. And she still is now, I would venture to say. She's just recognizing female accomplishment for the sake of recognizing female accomplishment, as I think one would probably want to do. So she calls this out for what it is, and one of the responses come back saying, "Hey, is this Michaela? It doesn't sound like Michaela." And she said, "Yeah." Michaela responded back, "Yeah, it's clear, it's definitely Michaela. Nothing, no one didn't. My body wasn't taken over." The response she got back was something to the effect of, "Good. I'm glad to see you on the right side of history." And Michaela, man, hit it directly with the response saying, no, that's the problem. The problem is when I'm conciliatory and I'm trying to do things the right way, and when I'm trying to rise above the fray, when I'm trying to make a point for the goodness of all, because I may actually be a benevolent being, you come in here and yet again say, well, the only reason why I'm agreeing with you is because you agreed with me, not because you're objectively correct. And it leads me into, I don't even want to play this clip from Joe Biden, Shine. I don't think we need to. I think everyone heard it. But the pitch now from Democrats and from Joe Biden's acceptance, I'm going to in big air quotes, acceptance speech, was a call for unity, a call for healing.
Grant, one thing that we should be cautious of is what is a call for unity? It seems like places like China, for example, the Chinese are a really united people. Is that awesome? Is it? You know, I think sometimes it's possible that these calls for unity can really go too far, and it can often be some kind of call for more government or big government. Let's all be united. Let's all mandatorily agree. And, you know, we're the United States for a reason. There's states in there. Yes. We're not a united America. We are United States of America, and we are supposed to only really truly be, according to the record, minimally united under the 10th Amendment, right?
And see, that's what's interesting, man, is I think, you know, minimally united under a version of government, but I would like to think that we could at least be united under some sense of objectivity. And and what Michaela said a second ago, that is the problem. It wasn't about sides at all. Her post about supporting a female for the sake of female accomplishments wasn't about picking a side. Now, it had the clear look of that to everyone else, but I think Michaela did a fantastic job navigating those waters of just trying to throw the idea, just the simple notion out there of, look, in today's day and age, is it even possible? Is it even possible for us to find agreement on anything and celebrate in that agreement with each other about anything at all? And I want to pose this question to the audience right now. Shine, I hate to do this to you, buddy. There is a TikTok link that I would like to show to people. If you don't feel comfortable, if you don't feel comfortable pulling it up on your computer, I totally understand.
I'm not playing no TikTok on my computer. That Chinese garbage.
All right, I got it.
Can we just describe it?
Yeah, but it's way more impactful if I actually show it, man. I'll do it on my computer. It's not actually, you're the host, so you would have to do it.
Where is it?
It's underneath the national stories section. It's right underneath President-elect Joe Biden delivers remarks. It says, some aren't buying the pitch that liberals want to unify and heal. And look, as Shine is pulling this video up, it's all of 20 seconds. But I think it does a great job of kind of demonstrating exactly where most people are right now. And I would like to know from this audience, when there are calls for openness and unity, and you noticed this morning that I didn't start with our normal regular pitch of the calm, cordial dialogue and exchange of ideas. I recognize and I realize this probably isn't the most apt time to pitch that. Because oddly enough, the same thing that this program, this community has been pitching for 3.5 solid years now, it seems like Joe Biden was, I don't know, regurgitating that same rhetoric over the weekend. Now, again, if I was reading that rhetoric just directly off a piece of paper, I would not hesitate to say that it resonated with me. I just don't know how much I can believe it coming from a Joe Biden. And I want to know what your feelings are. Go ahead and play this real quick, Sean. Again, it's just a few seconds, but I think this fully encapsulates where most conservatives are. Play this real quick.
Fascist, sexist, evil Nazi, white supremacist.
All right. So you get the point.
That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it. Right?
Well, hey, and that's what's happened to any Republican-esque right-leaning personality that has come out and tried to ingratiate themselves with the incoming administration has only been hit with, oh no, we remember you. And you will be remembered for your tacit support of the previous administration. It's not winning anyone any new friends or favors by being all peace and love right now. I mean, look what's going on with, man, I can't ever remember her name. I always call her the Ice Queen.
Alexander Cortez? Oh,
no. The blonde who used to be on Fox News. She's just Megyn Kelly.
Yeah, Megyn Kelly,
yeah, she's tried to do something similar. You know, like we're just trying to be a little more conciliatory and saying, you know, Trump should concede and stuff like that. And people have been like, don't try to play like you're not on his team. We remember you, you know, and it's like, she's like, I actually fought him and stuff like that. And they're like, no, we don't care, you know. So I don't know.
Elaine Davis just said in Facebook, by the way, they want us to heal, not heal. Important distinction on the spelling there. Clearly what she's indicating is that they want us to submit, not actually reconcile. Okay, that's the different spelling in H-E-E-L as opposed to H-E-A-L. And that's the intention that a lot of Republicans are getting. Go ahead, though.
I think conservatives ought to be able to heal in elections like 2022 when Republicans do better at the state and local level. I'm all about healing right now. Yeah, guys, everything is calm. It's cool. We got Joe in office. It's going to be great. Just keep going with it and forget to vote in 2022. Just pay attention to what Joe says on TV, and then I'll really be able to heal when we have more Republicans elected at the state and local level, right?
Well, look, man, and I think what a lot of people are going through right now, especially when it comes to Republicans, is that if they are looking at a potential Joe Biden victory, i.e. a Donald Trump loss, and especially through the circumstances that we're looking at it through right now, one has to go through the comparison, okay? One has to go through the idea of, hang on. All right, so what we're basically saying is that a Russian conspiracy theory, a Russian influence conspiracy theory that was alleging to just change the way that people think. There was no allegation that we were ever actually manipulating with ballots themselves. Sorry. That Russia was never manipulating ballots itself. The Russian conspiracy theory, which Mueller basically proved and showed through his investigation that, okay, whether there was intent to collude, but there was no actual collusion. I don't know what you make of that, but what I make of that, and I think what a lot of people understand, is that a salacious, ill-intent, Hillary Clinton-funded Steele dossier was put in front of a FISA court to circumvent the Fourth Amendment to spy on two individuals from the Trump campaign that eventually led to a 2-year-long $30 or $40 million investigation that came to nothing. Now, what are you going to say to me? We have some I don't know, Rick Gates and Papadopoulos charges. So we have lying to the FBI and taking down folks that should have been taken down 15 years before they got involved with the Trump campaign. Granted, I'll give you that if you want to. But in essence, in the grand scope, what you could look at the Russia charges with, were ended up that it was a conspiracy theory that led to nothing substantial, but we at least investigated it. So Republicans are looking at this scenario saying, hold on, the allegations from Democrats were that Russians were trying to influence our election, and we, for some reason, allowed that to happen to the tune of a 2-year-long investigation costing the taxpayers $30, $40 million. Now, fast forward 4 years. Republicans, conversely, are now making the claim, and I'm not even asserting whether this is true or not right now. They're making the claim that actual ballot tampering has been going on. Not just influence in the way that we think, which is also, let's be fair, part of the claim that Republicans are making. Conservatives are making. It's just not that Russians were doing it. It's that we were doing it to ourselves. Big tech was the one that was doing it. Now, which one is better to you? I don't know. Y'all take that home and chew on it. But the claim now is that there was actual ballot tampering going on. Now, you know my position on this. I've been very clear and open about the fact that statistics will indicate, data will indicate, Supreme Court precedent will indicate that previously, prior to November 3rd, 2020, there is not a lot of data to support that wild, rampant ballot tampering has been going on. Voter fraud, if you will. Now, it does, hear me, it does every single year. There are tens of thousands of people on every single state register that should not be there, that have double registrations, that have passed away. That is there. It's just courts have been very open about the fact. And when courts go through this, they bring in expert testimony from both sides. I'm talking leading industry experts. I'm talking weeks and weeks and weeks of testimony from these individuals. This has all been vetted out up until November 3rd. So the claim now is, fine, Mr. Henry, I get that. But we've never had a situation like we have had now, have we? And the answer is clearly no. So when Elaine Davis comes out and says they want us to heal, not heal, I think what she's pointing to is this idea is like, hang on, man. Somehow, because we were trying to obtain or maintain the moral high ground, we let ourselves get ran over for 2 solid years while they investigated nothingness. And now we're in a situation where the claim is that the actual ballots are being messed around with, the votes themselves, not the way that people think, but the votes themselves are being tampered with. And what, our conspiracy theories aren't going to be taken as valid anymore? It's lunacy. It's utter absurd. And last thing I'll say about this, because I want to get to some of the other clips, and especially what Shine brought up about this whole idea of lists. We had this thing, I wanted to go to this post from this guy on Facebook that I think had a fantastic point on this. I'll just read it to you right now. He said, look, the November 7th, 2000 election was not conceded. November 7th, 2000 election was not conceded until December 13th, 2000, 30-something days. During that period, courts at all levels of governments heard various lawsuits. Listen to this, including one by Democrats to stop the counting of overseas ballots in Florida because the voters failed to include their registration number on the ballot. The issue of counting with recounts went to the United States Supreme Court, which held that in any recount at this point violated either the Equal Protection Clause or the Due Process Clause of the Constitution. At that point, 36 days later, Al Gore held a nationally televised address and announced that he accepted George W. Bush's presidency. And America and our electoral process preserved just fine. It persevered just fine, going on to be the vehicle that elected our first black president in 2008 and again in 2012. Like most of you, this guy, Jason Watley, says, I hate it where we are as a country. We're more divided than ever, but for now, we should all calmly allow the courts to sort this stuff out. It was naive in the extreme to believe that the mass use of mail-in ballots would not be controversial. It was naive to believe that the mass use of mail-in ballots would not be controversial. NPR on November 4th even seemed to endorse the counting of, quote, naked ballots. Those, obviously, that were sent in with not a scratch of identification at all. Literally the equivalent of someone just phoning in their vote. So this guy, Jason Watley, I think rightfully says, please be reasonable. Don't buy into the every vote count platitude. There's not a sane person in this country that won't count legal votes. There is not a sane person in this country that does not want legal votes counted. But the business of voting by mail, which has long been held by both parties as the method most susceptible to problems, has not spared us now. As a country, we must acknowledge that well-meaning but flawed public policy created this mess. And this is simply not an option to leave serious questions of voter irregularities unchecked. To do so would taint the election now and maybe future elections for decades. So please, he says, just calm down. Let the two campaigns and their attorneys in the courts do their jobs. America will be just fine if we do. We were fine in 2000. And I think one of the most important points that he brought up is, look, call it hypocrisy if you want to. I just want to call it evening the deck, like Michaela tried to do when I started this rant. Michaela tried to go out there and take people at their word. You want unity? You want healing, Democrats? Michaela tried it. She kind of got shot down for it. More power to her, though. If you want unity and you want healing, let's go back to 2000 when Democrats were the ones that were issuing lawsuits in the one state needed to decide that election to stop overseas, i.e. military votes from coming in. We both done it, man. We both want to call this thing. We both want the integrity of elections to be maintained. Now, if we really want to unify and heal, don't force Republicans to HEEL. It will not be a good outcome for you, man. I'm telling you, this is like... We will enter a scenario where Republicans control the Senate and will likely flip the House back in 2 years. You will create a scenario by which you have an entire Congress of vindictive individuals that may in fact be justified to do wildly irrational things. Things that Republicans normally should not be supporting just because they want to get some sense of revenge or victory or because the rules of the game have changed. I don't want those rules changing. Zig, I've been going on for a while, man. I got to hit some of these Facebook notes as well. What are you making of any of this, man? Where are you on some of this?
I think we should let sleeping dogs lie. By all means, go ahead. Let Joe Biden give people the therapeutic comfort on TV they've come to prefer for the last however many years. But then when these folks are shocked that they're not winning elections, that's going to be on them. But also in terms of unity, if people really want quote unquote true unity or that feeling of community belonging, go out and make your own community. That's what I'm always advocating for. I have people in my family, people I know that we all disagree, but we're all united in the reasonability of each other's perspective. You know, for some of the people I know who have supported Biden, that's okay. You know, go ahead and support him if you want. What really matters is the House and Senate. And you know, people don't think about the consequences of the election. If you're a Republican, you shouldn't necessarily be upset that Joe Biden has won. That's going to help you in your state elections.
Why? Because you have a proverbial boogeyman to point towards? What do you mean?
Well, I don't know if I can confirm this to be 100% true, but what I surmise is that when you have an opposition party heading the president, that makes it much easier for the other party to win at the state and local level, because you can point to the president as having all these bad characteristics. Now, a lot of folks did that to Trump. It didn't turn out to hurt in the House and Senate, but I don't imagine that that'll be true for Democrats. Has this guy considered things like repealing the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act? Okay, or a $15 an hour minimum wage? That will hammer his party. So
I hear you there.
At least if you're a Republican, you ought to be able to unite with your friends about the very optimistic and bright future that we have at the state level.
Hey, by the way, I just saw we got a follow from Ariel Townsend. What's up? Shout out to you. Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the family. All right. And to Ariel and everyone else that just joined us, or the people that have been here for a while, we call this a family for a very clear reason. And I know sometimes people get frustrated with I don't know, almost the characterish way that I play, trying to remain consistent sometimes. I do that for no other reason other than just the idea of when we need to make the appeal to the rest of y'all, to the community that we're trying to build here, to this family, this digital family that we're trying to live life together. When we make the appeal that we're trying to do the right thing, that we're trying to reach across the aisle, that we need to have open communication and conversation, that we've been doing it for 3.5 years from day one. It has been the motto of this program. It's been the motto of this community. It's been the motto of this movement. From the literal day one that we started this, that's what we've been trying to do. I want to remain as consistent as possible in that appeal for when new people join. And most importantly, when we have conversations like this, where Joe Biden and the rest of the Democrat Party is saying, hey, we want to unify, but we're also going to make lists of people that wronged us in the past. That seems like a very inconsistent position. It seems like a very inconsistent position to be called a bigot for the last 4 years, and then all of a sudden you want to unify with the bigots. It just doesn't make sense. It does make sense, however, if for a 3.5-year track record, as we have been doing, you can present a case and say, yes, of course I disagree with you, but I'm going to defend what you're saying to the death. Your right to say that is above everything else that we're talking about right now. You have the right to disagree with me. Your self-autonomy reigns supreme, all that other great stuff. And I think we can actually grow with one another as we have disagreements. But is that the case with what's going on with the Democrat Party right now? Now, you've heard us talk about these lists for a while. And Sean, I saw you turn the camera on, so if you want to jump in at any point, let me know. These lists, though, they're called Trump accountability lists. I'm not making this up, man. And look, I hesitate to even dive into some of this right now because I don't know. If I didn't hear that this was from Buttigieg individuals, so people that had worked for Pete Buttigieg, and when I say people that work for Pete Buttigieg, I mean like McKinseyite elites. I mean folks from the McKinsey Institute. It's a political think tank of Democrats that are arguably some of the highest IQ schemers in the nation. These folks are smart. They know what they're talking
scholars.
About. Right?
No, seriously. Yeah. It's like we're the smartest people from college go after college and then go straight to a 6 to 7 figure job.
Yeah.
That's what the McKinsey Institute is.
And they're obviously trained on how to do politics the best way possible. Now, one might say, well, how did Pete Buttigieg lose then? I don't think it was ever Pete Buttigieg's role to win this thing.
They weren't never planning on running Pete Buttigieg anyway.
Right.
He was meant to be put on the national stage, and then be put in as a Fox News contributor.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And then when they need him most, right?
I mean, when they needed him most was to do that interview with Chris Wallace on Sunday. Honestly, that was like the biggest contribution he's made to the election the whole year.
All right. So what I'm about to bring up here, and one of the title of this program, obviously entitled Lists or Unity, Heal or Gloat. It's kind of the question is basically which side are we all going to choose right now? And let me make a quick pitch here real quick before I enter to this. Sean, if you want to get ready for the next segment here, go down to the very bottom of the show notes here this morning. There's a red underline highlighted section called Trump Accountability List. That first thing I'm bringing up is that tweet from AOC. That's what started this whole controversy. But let me make a quick pitch here, okay? As we're about to enter this idea of new list of unity and everything, I say yet one more time, I am excited. I'm enthused by, I'm looking forward to the next 4 years. I'm not exaggerating when I say this. I'm not trying to blow smoke. I'm not trying to hype y'all up. I'm not trying to make y'all not depressed somehow. I'm genuinely excited. I'm genuinely excited by the shift of demographics. I'm genuinely excited by whatever this realignment of the party is. I'm genuinely excited about the fact that there was 4 or 5 million new people that were brought into the Republican Party. I'm genuinely excited about the idea that possibly, maybe, fingers crossed, this pitch of dichotomous thinking and victimization has no power left. I got a clip here from Van Jones. We may play in a second where he breaks down, starts crying, talking about a Joe Biden presidency that he wins, or that was won. And he's crying, literally saying like it's easier now to have a child. It's easier for an immigrant. An immigrant doesn't have to be worried. An African-American father doesn't have to be worried about. He's talking about all these reasons why, because the fascist leader is gone, we don't have to be worried anymore. And a lot of people are making fun of Van Jones for that. But part of what I took away from this is, oh, okay, all right. So the sales pitch of victimization is losing some of its steam. Yeah. So the idea then that the fascist leader is gone means you have nothing to fight against. So if the oppressors are no longer oppressed, it means that reality bubble is breaking and fracturing a little bit. I'm enthused by both of these things. And most importantly, I'm enthused by the idea that good conservative values might be able to fill that void in a way if we can get to some of these people and make the pitch of, look, y'all, government is not going to fix these problems for you. You want to have a revolutionary idea? Let me tell you to this. All the brand new people that just came to this party, all the politically uninitiated. Let me make this real pitch for you. These local community groups, churches, 501c3s, your community groups that you're putting together, what we're doing here on this program, that is the actual actionable solution for most of these problems that Democrats have lied to you about. Do not look to me. Do not look to government or somebody else. Destroy all that. Destroy your previously conceived notions as to government going to save this thing from you. Conservatives have a real opportunity now to start at a localized level, work outwards for genuine solutions. And in that pitch, it doesn't matter who president is. It doesn't matter necessarily who controls the Senate. Some of that stuff will trickle down. Don't get me wrong. Yes. But ultimately speaking, the true power still lies with us. All right. So Sean, making my pitch for that. If you can, pull up this tweet here from AOC. This is what set off the whole Trump accountability list. And I don't know, man, am I going to be a part of this list one day? Is Sean and Zig, are we going to be on this list? Here's what AOC tweeted out. I
actually pre-bought tickets to this party. I wanted the VIP package. I mean, you get a room really small, 100 people in there. You only get fed once a week, and then they kill you at the end. It's going to be a really big party.
Yeah, but they feed you real well at least, right?
I mean, that's VIP too. You don't even want to know what the general admission is, man.
I just want to know who's DJing that party. You know what I mean?
DJ Damn.
Yeah, I bet it's Ace of Base. Somebody that was just played out in the 90s. That's all we get. For you sycophants, that's all you're getting. Hey, speaking of sycophants, that was the tweet, by the way. This came out on November 6th from Alexandria Cortez. She said, is anyone archiving these Trump sycophants for when they try to downplay or deny their complicity in the future? I foresee decent probability of many deleted tweets, writings, photos in the future. She obviously gets much reaction, and that tweet was initially sent out at 2:16 p.m. She follows up with this following tweet at 3:24 p.m. on the same day saying, LOL, at the party, quote, party of personal responsibility, being upset at the idea of being responsible for their behavior over the last 4 years. So Alexander Cortez floats this weird idea of creating some list of sycophants or something. Now, whether that's administration or whether that's just people that supported him, I don't know. But that list of 70 million people is going to be.
They already had a website dedicated to mapping people who've made donations to the Trump campaign. Right? You've seen that, right? Where like you can just like pull up and it's integrated into a Google Maps, and you can just look up people who donated to the Trump campaign. I wonder why they made that. I'm sure it had nothing to do with the fact that there's mobs going to actual residential houses in some states sometimes, you know. So this would just be an augmentation to that. In fact, it'd be a feeder to that, right? You'd make this list, then you'd find the publicly available information and add them to that donor list. That seems to be a good systematic way of doing it.
One of these responses, man, hits exactly on that, kind of indicating this idea that this has been a long time coming. This guy, Danny Typo, I don't even know who this is, but it was a well-phrased response saying, I feel a little more hesitant in accepting the outcome of an election when elected representatives seems to feel that when finalized, I'm going to end up on some kind of enemies list of the federal government. Danny's point is, hold on, man. You want me to unify behind this president that you're now advocating for the previous guy? If I so happen to support anything he's ever done, I'm going to end up on some kind of like federally sponsored list. What are you talking about? No, again, it's all of this is hyperbole, but go ahead.
The list is Socialist Santa Claus's list, and he's going to check it twice to see if you're naughty, and if you're bad, you're getting coal. That's what. No, actually, you're not getting coal. See, Socialist Santa Claus would ban coal because it's a fossil fuel. Okay, so you might get like a discarded solar panel on your
right. Yeah,
Socialist Santa.
You're getting a shard of a solar panel is what you're doing, right? That was one response there. Another person says that I'd say rounding up 70 million Americans for political punishment is a bit ambitious, but hey, it's kind of on brand for socialists, I guess. Now everybody's going back and forth about, I don't know, Alexander Cortez being a little bit too bombastic. Maybe she was just using hyperbole to prove a point. Who knows? But this actually ended up picking up steam. And then Shine, in this same section of notes, you can see down there, it's about 2/3 of the way down. You see another highlighted section. There's an actual website now. Trump accountability website. Now, granted, let me just be completely clear here. And I want to get the Real News audience opinion on this as well. This TrumpAccountability.net website looks like it was some rando in his mom's basement putting this together on a hackneyed GoDaddy website or something for all of $5. I mean, literally, there's a paragraph worth of information here and a random link to an email and a Twitter account. This is not much of anything to even point at. And I would not have even brought this up, as Shine's probably showing you this website on their screen right now. I'll read to you right here what it says. We must never forget those who furthered the Trump agenda. A big picture of Trump looking, I don't know, smug, I suppose is what they were going for here, saying, remember what they did. We should, he's starting, oddly enough, starting with, we should welcome our fellow Americans with whom we differ politically. Really? All right. Going on to say, but those who took a paycheck from the Trump administration should not profit from their efforts to tear our democracy apart. The world should never forget those who, when faced with a decision, chose to put their money, their time, and their reputations behind separating children from their families, encouraging racism and anti-Semitism, and negligently causing the unnecessary loss of life and economic devastation of our country's failed response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So I guess the idea is like you put your email address in here and they keep you up to date with what this list is. And the intention of this list, I suppose, at least the way that they phrased this, was meant to be holding people accountable that were previous parts of this administration. And again, to be totally clear, I would not have put any kind of stock into this at all if it weren't for an interview done on Fox News, where I believe it was actually Susan Collins. Or no, sorry, it was somebody from, let's see, what's her name here? It doesn't matter. You can see the same exact clip that I'm looking at here. An individual from the DNC coming out to say that she believes this was Buttigieg type people or people that had worked for Buttigieg previously that put this list together, or at least put this website together. But then Glenn Greenwald comes in to save us from all of this, saying like, hang on. We want to be honest. This tweet's here in this same section of show notes, John, if you want to. It's a good thing we have Glenn Greenwald to let us know how ridiculous the idea is that anyone in D.C. would blacklist those that committed, quote, atrocities under the Trump administration. Greenwald, man, just perfectly lays out this hypothetical introduction to a news segment of that night, saying, to hear more on why it's vital that those who do heinous things in power be permanently ostracized, as is being called for, we turn to our distinguished panel. Bush White House speechwriter David Frum, Bush Cheney Communications Director Nichelle Wallace, ex-CIA chiefs John Brennan. He just goes on to admit, after that, he says, we'll hear from a special panel of journalists, writers, and activists on why lying can never be tolerated in political life, like Bill Kristol, Max Boot, the Rick Wilson, Jeffrey Goldberg. John Yoo will be here to discuss the evils of authoritarianism. And then he links to his entire article saying, like, what, y'all are being serious about this? Are we being serious about this?
Yeah, because, I mean, like, those names they just listed, those people are tacitly, at least partially, responsible for 800,000 dead Iraqis. You know? And actually, that's a really old number. It's probably more like 2 million now. That's from, like, 2012, the 800,000, you know?
Right?
It's hard to argue with that, too.
No, it is. It really is. So I don't know if anybody's being serious about this, but it's certainly caused controversy. Start the conversation of, I don't know, man, are people, what are we going to choose? List or unity? Which way are we going with this? And again, to be totally fair, to be completely fair about this entire presentation, then I want to hit some Facebook comments to see where y'all are coming from this thing of what tact should Republicans take is what I really want to get to today. Now, you know where I would advocate for Republicans to take here. And I have a little pitch on this in a second. I want to see what y'all make of it. But I want to know what y'all think right now. I want to know what you think the next play should be. I know what the next play is going to be as far as the legal outcome of what they're going to charge and which states, and that they're going to keep fighting for this. Why we have all this stuff linked in the show notes as well. Rudy Giuliani's press conference.
I think the smartest thing for Republicans to do is to encourage the president to do the legal things that he feels like he should do. And I say that because forget sour grapes. They're going to call you sour grapes no matter what you do. Case in point, what happened to the lovely Miss Michaela. No matter what you do, you're going to get crap from these people. There's no way to ingratiate yourself with these people. Not today, not tomorrow, not this month, at least. You know, maybe in a couple of years we can work on some legislation together. We can all hold hands and sing Kumbaya if we stop a war from happening or something like that. But I've been wanting to see, you know, since 2000. I was a little boy in 2000, and I was actually homeschooled at the time, so I got to watch all that as a young man. There's lots of things about our elections I'd like to see worked on. I really don't believe in even scanning paper ballots. I think that should all be paper ballots, all be counted. It should be demanded that it's all counted, like immediately, all that kind of stuff. And then you should be able to go back through chains of custody if you ever want an audit pretty easily. But I mean, what is it? 60 Minutes and all kinds of different investigative reporting outlets after 2000 found that these voting machines can be easily hacked. And there has been a lot of updates to the technology, but we're not learning anything from these elections that are killing people's faith in elections. So I don't necessarily know if encouraging President Trump to go down these legal roads is going to get President Trump reelected, but it could force the issue of having state legislatures do their job and figure out how to make an election happen in their state where most people believe the outcome. I'm not even saying fix all the fraud. I don't think they can fix all the fraud. And I think it's going to account between at least, you can only get it down to like 1 or 2%. You know what I mean? But you should make it easy for people to audit. You should have a very open system that people feel good about. And I don't think we have that. And I think that could be a very positive result of the Trump team continuing to do what they're doing. And just as a matter of reality, it's not over until these state legislatures certify the vote. It's not over unless Trump concedes. It's not over unless the Electoral College actually votes for Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying? That's when it's actually over. I mean, what happened over the weekend is the equivalent of real news going on. We're going live. Joe Biden's now the president. It's the same when we do it as when the AP, Fox News, or CBS, or ABC. That's just a group of people with a platform saying who they think will be president. And I've probably gone on long enough. I'll let you get in there, Grant.
No, I completely understand where you're coming from, and this is where a lot of the other members of the GOP are coming from. And I do mean members of the GOP, Senate members and everything else. Just to give a quick update as to where Sean's coming from. So I get these. Well, actually, a lot of us get these same emails from the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation was keeping all their folks up to date with the conversations they were having with the White House administration as to what's going on in each particular state. And as of Sunday night, these are some of the updates that they gave to us. So in Arizona, Sean, this is in the show notes there if you think they need to want to look at this, whatever. It's under the I don't think this election is over yet. It's about right below that national story section. In Arizona, the president continues to make progress, had another ballot drop at 10:10 a.m., still pending. Biden has a 20,484 lead. With each day, Joe Biden lead continues to decrease. This is again in Arizona. Now, in Arizona, an auto recount occurs if the margin is at 0.1%. If the margin is 0.5% or less, the campaign can demand a recount. Doesn't mean they have to be given it. So I think obviously what the Trump administration is looking for is that 0.1% margin, and still expect them to do something in Arizona regardless. So that count's still going on. Wisconsin, the update we got from there. Again, this is as of Saturday nights, early Sunday morning, something that I expect. I think so. Some of these numbers may change. Some of the situation may have changed already. But as Wisconsin, we're still looking at a margin that's less than 1%. Serious irregularities on Election Day. Apparently, the administration is seeking a statewide recount. They expect them ruling on that sometime today. This again is in Wisconsin. Biden's lead still hovers at less than 1% and will be the subject of a recount starting on Wednesday, they say. Serious irregularities are the subject of lawsuits. So already we're talking in Wisconsin. They're within the margin, I suppose, and a recount or so the Heritage Foundation is saying will start this week. Now, I don't know what reporting is going to back this up. Again, I'm just pulling this from what the Heritage is telling me from their conversations with the White House administration. Let's see here. Georgia is another big one, right? They're saying that they're going to have to recount. Military and overseas ballots are still out and uncounted. They expect a huge majority mail-in ballots to not have proper IDs and not be properly filled out.
Did you also hear in Georgia that the State Department has taken over Fulton County elections?
Is that right? Really?
Yeah. The State Department said that he found the Georgia Department of State. I'm probably not saying that correctly. But over the weekend, he said he found some irregularities based on, I don't know what, like it was very, very vague, but he said that state resources were heading into Fulton County to look at things and maybe even recount just Fulton County. Or maybe it was like just one place they were counting in Fulton County. I'm not sure. But I do know that you can look it up from the Department of State in Georgia's tweet. I should have had that ready for the show. But I didn't think we were going to be going through kind of irregularities. I knew you were going to be working on this kind of like where do we go based on where we think we're at right now.
Well, again,
and I get that. And I think we should. It's kind of a calming stability kind of thing, and I appreciate that very much.
And in some of these states, man, I'm just going through this just to give people an idea as to like where we even are, because there's so much confusion surrounding a lot of this stuff. I mean, goodness gracious, Biden was announced, so says the media, that he was president over the weekend. I think people, caught up with most of that news. But again, in Georgia, there's still a number of ballots to be counted. Again, all this stuff apparently, allegedly, reportedly is coming from the Trump administration. Okay. So I don't know how much you want to back this up. I don't even know what's going to come from most of this stuff. But the state is saying, they're saying right now the state will be subject to a recount. The campaign firmly believes that Georgia will come in for Trump. So apparently 2 states are looking at a recount here now. Nevada, they say 500,000 mail-in ballots remain to be counted. They're saying severe irregularities documented on the ground. Apparently AG Barr has been notified about those things going on in Nevada. Now, apparently, importantly, Nevada has 6? Is that correct? 6 electoral college votes. So as far as this swing is concerned, it's not as important as some of the other ones, but still it's important enough to put Joe Biden over the necessary 270.
Well, right now, Joe Biden's at 274, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so 6 matters quite a bit.
For right now, it absolutely does, man. Saying greater than 3,000 people voted who are ineligible to vote in Nevada.
And that's I know specifically about that. That's from the Nevada GOP, and it's 3,000 people who do not live in Nevada that have residency in other states. That's what it means who are not eligible to vote. So just adding some context there.
Let's see here. So Pennsylvania, some people are saying the worst of any of these things, saying thousands of overseas and military votes are still pending. 89,000 mail-in votes are still pending. 100,000 provisional ballots still uncounted. Biden camp believes that these are all going to be for him, or at least the majority. Trump team thinks that many of these will actually be Republican. Trump campaign poll watchers state widespread ban on access to view counting in Philadelphia, even after the state Supreme Court allowed problems with curing the ballots. This is a whole convoluted sentence to say that in Pennsylvania, there was a certain protocol issue that said you had to be so many feet away. So they challenged that and said you can actually be 6 feet away. And then when they came in to be 6 feet away, the ballot counters were just moved another 15 feet backwards or 10 feet backwards or something. So it's literally a physical game of we're this far away, we'll move them here, and then the ballot counters move back over here. It's a ridiculous scenario that's going on. And this aspect of curing some of the ballots, that's a legal terminology that means, okay, so if Shine were to send in a ballot and he forgot to sign his name, as egregious of a violation as this would be, a legal curing would be to like forge his signature. Or if they forgot to stamp it or fold it properly or whatever little intricate details you have to do, a legal curing would be like to make sure this ballot counts, possibly if it's for Biden or even Trump or whoever, will do something to fix the defect before it gets tossed out. But,
well, and also, too, Pennsylvania, out of all the states, is the one you want to watch because that's actually the one that's gotten a response from the Supreme Court. We've had Alito say, Justice Alito has, I think it was Thursday last week. It's really hard for me to tell because of that stuff I was doing with my grandfather. It all kind of bleeds together. But it was sometime last week, Justice Alito said they needed to segregate all the ballots that came in after 8 p.m. on Election Day. All of them. And I imagine there will be charges of not segregating these ballots. And a move because of that, to decertify a lot of ballots. And Alito has already made the comment that the state the state Supreme Court of Pennsylvania is not allowed to legislate from the bench. That's a quote from Justice Alito. And that has to do with the state legislature said we're not taking any ballots after 8 p.m. on Election Day. State Supreme Court said, yes, you are. So that as far as like anywhere where the Trump campaign is actually on a legal road to getting something accomplished, it's the most likely in Pennsylvania, but still not very likely. But that's right, where they've gotten the most done. But that could be if something goes to the Supreme Court over Pennsylvania and something like the Supreme Court saying you can take ballots after 8 p.m. on Election Day, that's the only place I see where the Trump campaign could have like over 100,000 ballots invalidated. Unless someone wants to take up what's going on in Michigan, where we do have that case where that a glitch, moved 1,400 ballots in for that House rep that ended up flipping the election after an audit, a hand count audit done by a county elections official in Michigan County. They also found out that 27 other Michigan counties use the same election software, and also that I think around 33 other states, including Nevada, Arizona, and Pennsylvania. I don't think including Georgia. A lot of people say it's including Georgia, but I don't think so. But if somebody wants to take that up, then then that's a whole new thing. But no one has. But I think we'll know a lot more today. I think the Trump legal team on Friday said, okay, let's just stop stabbing at the dark here. Let's get a lot more coordinated. I think Lindsey Graham said there was, the Trump campaign was briefing the entire Senate and House Republican caucus on Saturday. And I think they're all trying to do something. It's very unlikely that it gets done. I think the only likely place is in Pennsylvania.
Can I make one more pitch here, too? So Judy just said in Facebook, don't know how he got to be so smart, but I totally agree with D&T, meaning David Thompson. Not that I'm prejudiced or anything. Judy's obviously Shine's grandmother. But look, the point that Shine just made, I think Judy has a good point of him being so smart. When Shine brings up this idea that a software glitch, can change the outcome of an election. So if 1,400 people switching over to a different candidate can change the outcome of election, I really want to hone down on that idea. And yet one more time at the end of our program this morning, at least try and instill some sense of hope and optimism into what looks like a fairly dire outcome, because it's just not. It's just objectively, factually not.
Grant, but before you get that, the election rules that we have before the Supreme Court, state Supreme Courts get involved, those are actually supposed to create unity. They create unity. They create unity by having a uniform standard.
Okay.
That is by definition unity. This is what the rules are. This is what we agree to, and therefore we're going to move forward with that. When you start changing the rules because of special accommodations, that's what bothers people. So if we're going to talk about this idea of unity going forward, we need stability in the election code that shouldn't be changed whenever one side feels like it.
I hear you, man.
That creates disunity. And now in Pennsylvania, you have a lot of partisan bickering back and forth because the Supreme Court again decided to legislate from the Supreme Court.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and the whole point is too, you know, like if the Republican-led legislature in Pennsylvania is really mad about that, they are the ones that have to certify the vote. And, you know, from a constitutional perspective, it's not something anyone's talked about, you know, for over 100 years or so, or maybe even like the 40s, I think this came up. But Mark Levin on Twitter over the weekend said, hey, by the way, according to the Constitution, state legislatures certify the vote. And then I was like, oh, I didn't really know that. So I had to look in and did some research. You know what a vote is in a state, Grant? Constitutionally, it's an opinion poll to get what the people want.
I see. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? It's from a legal standpoint, it's a suggestion.
Yeah, and then the actual vote takes place on 14th, 15th. Yeah.
Well, with the state legislature, they get to elect the electors.
Yeah.
They certify the election and then elect the electors. If the state legislature wanted to, you know, move into hiding, I guess, you know, that would be a really scary thing to do. They could say, well, you know, we disagree with the way this was conducted because of the state Supreme Court, and we are going to allocate the electors based on what we think, you know. Now, that would be, in my opinion, in 2020, the most dangerous thing anyone could do. But it is legal. It is it's like constitutional. It's like in the Constitution. And not only that could happen in any of these states, which is why I said earlier, it's not over until the electors vote. And given the fact that it's 2020, I'm not cheering for anyone to do anything in particular, okay? I'm just and this is also kind of like theory crafting in a video game or whatever, when you're trying to figure out the lore that's happening in the future. It's all the little different pathways this could go down. And yeah, I mean, like in 2020, would you be surprised if a state legislature did that? I mean, weirder things have happened. I mean, in 2020, right. I mean, like Zig said, you know, we don't normally change things in an election year that would greatly benefit one party or another. We just normally don't do that. Well, but we were allowed to do that because of COVID, right? That's the only reason. I mean, even the state Supreme Court in Pennsylvania would not have ruled you can take ballots after Election Day on a normal election year. It was specifically because they thought they would have difficulties based around COVID. And that really changed the landscape. And everybody did warn, if you change the rules at all during election year, it's going to cause instability. And here we are, where your choices are: believe in a result that you don't really believe in and start working towards unity. Like, why? Because, like, you're afraid of being on a list? Is that why we are working towards unity? Is it because you want to seem magnanimous? And I mean, this is not a you, Grant, or a you, Zig, or a specific listener. This is, I mean, everybody wants to feel like they're the adult, they're mature, and this is the mature way to do things. But why are we really doing it? You know, I think
unfortunate as this is, man, I'm gonna have to cut us all here because I know all three of us actually have. Yeah,
we got a meeting.
All three of us actually have a meeting.
I'm sorry I went on and on like that.
No, that's all right. It was just getting good, that too. And I hate to do this, but it's that Monday morning thing, man. We have 60 seconds until we have like a literal hard stop that actual occupation takes over here. But listen, we love each and every one of y'all sincerely. When we say this, you know why we say this. We've been doing the exact same pitch for 3.5 solid years. I'm telling you, remain consistent to what you know to be true. All right, I truly, honestly do believe we are on the precipice of a paradigm shift. I mean, the Overton window style shift that will change the way that people would view conservatism and politics for the next 100 years. I am not joking about this. I will lay more of this out tomorrow, so definitely tune in tomorrow. I'm optimistic. I'm excited about what's happening here. I really, honestly am. It's just time for us to take charge, take self-responsibility back, do it for yourself. There's nobody else to blame but us and our own community groups. We can do this. We've always had the power. We just need to take this power back. Got to sign out here. Love y'all for real. We'll see you tomorrow.